I never thought the sound of clinking wine glasses could feel so heavy in my chest. But that night, sitting in a dimly lit corner of the restaurant, watching my husband laugh across the table from his boss and his boss's wife, I realized something. He wasn't just charming them for business. He was charming her. Her hand lingered on his sleeve just a little too long. His smile curved in a way I hadn't seen directed at me in months. And when their eyes met, it wasn't just friendly, it was electric. I should have confronted him right then. I should have screamed, flipped the table and walked out. But instead I smiled. I played the perfect wife, and I tucked away every ounce of anger deep inside. Because what my husband didn't know was that I'd already suspected him for weeks. I'd been watching, listening, gathering pieces of a puzzle that was finally starting to take shape. And the more pieces I had, the more dangerous I became. It had started small, late nights at work, business trips that didn't match the calendar, cologne lingering on his shirt that I didn't buy. But the turning point was when I accidentally overheard a phone call. He was in the garage pacing. I only caught fragments. She doesn't suspect. Don't worry. This trip will be perfect. My gut clenched, but I said nothing. Not then. Instead, I made my own plans. And that's how I ended up at that dinner, sitting across from the very woman he was risking everything for. The boss's wife, Natalie. She was all elegance and grace. The kind of woman who could make a room go quiet just by walking in. And she was married to Harold Davis, the man who basically controlled my husband's career. That's what made it so perfect. I wasn't just going to catch my husband cheating. I was going to make sure the fallout destroyed everything he valued. When dessert was served, I excused myself and accidentally left my phone recording under the table. I knew from the way my husband's hand brushed Natalie's thigh when he thought no one was looking that the conversation after I left would be interesting. The next day, I listened to every second of that recording. And it gave me exactly what I needed. Words no man should ever say to another man's wife. But here's the thing. I didn't rush to Harold with it. No. I played a longer game. First, I called Natalie. We met for coffee, and I didn't start with accusations. I started with sympathy. I know how it feels to feel unseen, I said softly, stirring my latte. And I think you deserve better than sneaking around. Her cheeks flushed, and I could see the shame in her eyes. She tried to deny it at first, but eventually the truth poured out, about the texts, the late-night calls, the plans they'd made for an upcoming business trip. That's when I told her the part that made her hand freeze over her coffee cup. My husband isn't the man you think he is, I said, leaning closer. And I can prove it. But when you see it, you're going to realize you're just his stepping stone. She frowned, confused. Stepping stone to what? I smiled. To your husband's job. Her eyes widened. And just like that, I knew I'd planted the seed. The beauty of it? Natalie didn't run to her husband right away. Instead, she started watching my husband the same way I had, looking for cracks for proof. She became my silent ally without even realizing it. But the real twist? By the time Harold found out about the affair, it wouldn't just be because his wife had confessed. It would be because I handed him everything: messages, call logs, that dinner recording, packaged so neatly that there would be no doubt. And I made sure it all came out, the night before the most important presentation of my husband's career. Because when Harold fired him, I wanted my husband to know it wasn't just his job he'd lost. It was me. And that was only the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel's face when I walked out of the restaurant with his boss, Mr. Reynolds. He'd looked pale, almost sick, like he knew something bad was about to happen. And he was right. The next morning I got ready like any other day, at least that's what it looked like. Inside, my heart was racing. I'd already planned exactly how the rest of this would go. But I couldn't rush it. First, I had to make sure Mr. Reynolds had all the proof. After all, Daniel hadn't just been lying to me. He'd been lying to the man who signed his paycheck. And from what I'd seen in their company culture, loyalty mattered more than anything. I arrived at Mr. Reynolds' office just before 9 a.m. His assistant looked surprised to see me but let me in right away. He was sitting behind his desk reading through a file. When he saw me, he stood up. "Morning, Claire," he said warmly. "I want to thank you again for last night. You didn't just save my marriage, you probably saved my life." My wife, well, she was ready to leave. I smiled politely. "I'm glad I could help. But there's something else you need to know. And I'm sorry in advance. His brow furrowed. Go on. I took a deep breath and pulled the small folder from my bag. Inside were screenshots, photos, and text logs. All the evidence of Daniel's affair. Not just with one woman but 3. When Mr. Reynolds opened the file, his jaw tightened. This is who? Your company's junior marketing assistant, I said quietly. The one he was supposed to be training. And the others are, well, not from work, but they still prove a pattern. Mr. Reynolds flipped through the pages, his face growing darker. I knew this wasn't just about Daniel's personal life. This was about the company's reputation, and Daniel had been careless. I can't believe this, he muttered. He sits in my office every week, acting like he's some golden boy. Meanwhile, he's jeopardizing our name. I didn't say anything. I just let the weight of it sink in. Finally, he closed the folder and looked at me. Thank you for bringing this to me. I promise you I'll handle it. I nodded, but inside I was already 3 steps ahead. I knew Daniel would call me later, trying to smooth things over. But I had no intention of answering. Not yet. Around noon, I got a text from one of Daniel's coworkers. A friend of mine who'd always been quietly supportive. Coworker. You might want to know. He just got called into a closed-door meeting with HR and the boss. Looked like he'd seen a ghost. I didn't reply, but I could almost see it in my mind. Daniel sitting in that chair, sweating while Mr. Reynolds laid out the evidence. By the end of the day, I still hadn't heard from him. But at 7:42 p.m. my phone buzzed. Daniel, we need to talk. Please. It's not what it looks like. I stared at the screen, my lips curling into the faintest smile. That line, it's not what it looks like, was practically his signature at this point. Instead of replying, I put my phone face down and went to make tea. The real fun hadn't even started yet. The next morning, things escalated faster than I expected. I got another text, this time from Mr. Reynolds himself. Mr. Reynolds. Thought you should know we're letting him go. Official announcement goes out this afternoon. It was done. Just like that. But for me it wasn't just about the job. I wanted Daniel to understand that every lie has a price, and sometimes that price is everything you thought was untouchable. When he finally showed up at the apartment that night, he looked broken. His suit was wrinkled, his tie half undone, and his eyes were red like he hadn't slept. What did you do? He demanded as soon as he walked in. I raised an eyebrow. What did I do? I think the better question is, what did you do? You went to my boss. You ruined my career. No, Daniel. You ruined your own career. I just stopped you from taking everyone else down with you. He paced the living room, running his hands through his hair. You have no idea what you've done. Oh, I do, I said calmly. And you have no idea what's coming next. He froze. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer. I just smiled faintly, picked up my tea and walked out of the room. Let him wonder. Let him stew in that fear. Because I still had one last move. And it was going to make sure he'd never forget this day for the rest of his life. I stood in the center of the crowded ballroom, my heart pounding but my hands steady. Every eye in the room was on me, and I could see my husband's face turning pale. His boss's wife clutched the letter I'd given her, the one that held every disgusting detail of my husband's affair with her. Silence spread like wildfire. People stopped eating. Forks hovered midair. Then his boss stepped forward, face hard, jaw tight. Is this true? He asked, his voice low but shaking with rage. My husband stammered. It's not what it looks like. But it was exactly what it looked like. His boss turned to me. You've just saved my marriage. His voice cracked, but it wasn't gratitude in his eyes. It was fury, not at me but at him. And you? He pointed a finger at my husband. Are finished here. It was over. Just like that. In front of his colleagues, clients, and friends, his entire career came crashing down. I could feel my husband's glare burning into me, but I didn't care. He'd lied, cheated, and treated me like a fool for years. Tonight I was done being silent. As the room buzzed with whispers, I walked out without looking back. The night air hit my face, cool and freeing. I had no idea what my future looked like, but I knew one thing. It would be mine and mine alone. If you loved watching him get exactly what he deserved, make sure you subscribe, like, and share because more stories are coming.